So the door is John 10:9. Jesus said, I'm the door, any man comes in, he'll be saved. Oh, that's cool. We apply that to salvation, right? But the next phrase is kind of crazy. What's the next phrase? For he shall come in and go out and find pasture. You mean like he'll come in, get saved, and then during the week he'll get backslid, and then he'll come back in on the weekend and then go back out and backslide in the weekdays. Is that what that means? I don't think so.
Right.
So it must mean something else. I think it's talking about, remember Jesus, John 3, let's go back to the beginning. I am Jesus, I did ascend. If you want to know who that is, it's the guy who descended. Remember, that's me. I came out of heaven. But I have ascended, that's past tense, early in his ministry, John 3, Nicodemus. And he finishes it with saying, I am in heaven. Jesus learned how to live in both realms simultaneously, with the realm above the line being his realer world.
Hang out.
The more real world. The world from which he got his marching orders, from which he got his empowerment.
Right.
So we're just being asked. So I believe what Jesus is saying in John 10:9 is, you'll come in and go out, and you'll learn how to live in both realms, and you'll find pasture. Your soul and your spirit will be totally fulfilled. You're not just an earthling and your spirit says, but what about me? You're not just living in heaven after your ticker stops and your body says, and your soul says, but what about me? You learn to live in both realms and you find pasture.
Yeah.
You fulfill the design, the desire, the joy of our Father's heart. Cool. We're learning how to do that. Well, let's move on. We're going to, if we're not careful, we'll eat up our activation time here. And then, because, Lord knows, we got food to eat, but then again, Jesus said in John 4, I got food to eat that you don't know of. Anyway. Hey, by the way, I don't know if anybody noticed, but the name of my shirt, it's kind of all crinkled up here, is Ascend. And it's on the back here, Ascend. You watch. Ascension is a little bit of a newer word. But here's another new word that's got a little more age than ascend. Decree. Used to be, nobody used the word decree. 20, 30, 40 years ago, nobody said decree in prayer. Now, we might have read a couple verses, or we quoted the verse, but we didn't actually decree.
Right. It was related to prophecy only. Really.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe that.
Yeah.
But you listen now to the prayer leaders, Dutch Sheets.
Yeah.
I think every day you use the word decree. It's coming of age. Now, why is that? How could you ever decree as an earthling?
Right.
Because after all, I'm only human. Whatever. How could you make a decree when you're just mortal?
Yeah, how dare you? Scandal.
Yes, and what right do I have? That's sacrilegious. I'm kind of like stepping on Jesus' toes or something, How could I do that? If we learn to ascend and we begin to get the mind of Christ, remember that's where he teaches us of his ways.
Right.
And we learn to walk in his paths.
Yeah.
And then 1 Peter says, then if any man speak, let him speak, listen to this, is powerful words, as an oracle of God. Meaning the very mouthpiece of God. How could I do that if I'm just a mere human? You're not a mere human. You're a saint. God says, come up out of your mere humanness. Learn to be a saint who lives in the heavenlies. And when you come up here, I'm going to tell you about things that you're going to shame is going to fall off of you. Condemnation won't be able to get into you. You're not going to be riddled with worthlessness and hopelessness and rejection and whatever, because what does perfect love do? It's going to cast out fear, and then you'll be able to stand with your head up because you have the glory and the lifter of your head, and you'll be able to stand with confidence with me, Jesus says. Not like, oh no, Jesus, I don't want to be close. No, with me, because you realize I am already hidden with Christ inside of God. I might as well just go ahead and get used to it. It might as well just go ahead and become part of the norm of my life. rather than something that makes good preaching fodder only. And we still preach about it. It's good preaching fodder, but we don't want to be only that, right? So we'll learn how to speak as an oracle with confidence. And that's where I think we begin to learn how to use the word decree. And there are a lot of synonymous words, such as declare, prophesy, release, herald, proclaim. They'll carry somewhat the similar connotation. And that's where we're going. We're going to begin to speak things. I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to leave the name off. But it just happened this week. Somebody called me up, texted me, the wife, and said, husband is really bad off. He thinks he's going to die. He knows if he goes to the hospital, he's going to die. He won't come home. And I know this guy real well, and some of you know him real well. And I said, and she said, would you pray for him? I said, okay, I will. I'm actually driving a car. And so I'm just driving along, and I said, okay, I'm going to go visit him in the Spirit, I might say. I'm going to go in the Spirit, lay my hands on him. And I made a couple general proclamation declarations over him that are biblically sound, correct, always true. I don't have to have rhema to make these kind of declarations, right? But now I ask God, is there anything else? In fact, I'm going to read this if I can find it. Because it came to me, just surprised me. Let me go back to maybe right here. Maybe. Yes, this is it. Okay. Okay, here's what I text back to her. Not while I was driving. I'm driving. I made my couple of declarations that I know always to be true. I don't have to ask God whether this is okay to pray this kind of a prayer. And by the way, no petition prayers. I haven't done that for years. Is that bad?
Go for it.
Because everything that you would petition for, God has always said is yours.
Right.
So good.
Given you everything pertaining to life and godliness. Why do we snivel? Why do we beg? I like that word, snivel. I don't know if that's a good word for this particular application. It just came to my mind. My mind sometimes works in strange ways. Here's what I wrote back to her, because this is what happened. As I did, I said, I went to him, I laid hands on him, made a few declarations. Then, this militant type decree just came up inside of me. It didn't come through my normal cognitive brainiac waves, you know? It wasn't pathways of my brain. It just kind of, whoop. And I said, no. And it surprised me. I said, you are not, capital N-O-T, going to die. And what I was saying, the reason I was saying that was I was imparting it to his soul man.
Yeah.
His spirit man was fine. There wasn't a problem with his spirit man. His soul man was now compromised.
Yeah.
Dark clouds all over his soul man. I'm speaking life into a soul man. I felt this militance come up inside of me. Now you can't do that until you hear, because faith only comes by. Okay, don't try it if you don't hear it. If you do it without hearing, then you're in soul power.
Yep.
And that's not going to end so well for you. But you got to hear first. And hopefully we're old enough in God and veterans enough in God that we know the difference between brainiac power and Holy Spirit speaking and quickening something to us, right? So anyway, I go on to say, I said, it kind of surprised me because I was just waiting on what to decree over Paul. Then that very forceful command just came up out of the deep within. Anyway, I go on to tell her, I spent some time on that and I made some more decrees. And this is what I said. I called his spirit to stand up tall and take charge. Really, it was his soul. I called his soul man to come up tall and take charge. No, that's not true. Sorry about that. Maybe back up. I called his spirit man to take charge. I do believe our spirit man can roll over and get sluggish. Pure, holy, complete, seated with Christ. All that's all true. But if we don't activate our spirit man, I think we can get sluggish on the spirit man level. So anyway, go back to that. I called his spirit to stand up tall and take charge, and then I called his soul into receiving the heavenly flow from his spirit, that's called getting a renewed mind. So in other words, when the divine flow from Spirit of God comes through his spirit, and his spirit says, yes, I take my orders from headquarters, and I say, soul and body, you now must toe the line. So I'm coming alongside him to strengthen his hands, like Aaron and Ur. Yeah? I come alongside him to strengthen him. And then his body I commanded to receive this now unhindered flow from heaven's healing and health. I said, this is not a time to die. This is a time to thrive. Paul, I'm just speaking right into his soul. Oh, I gave it a name, didn't I? Oh, oopsie. You came to the kingdom for such a time as this. It's a time to ride on your high places. Now, is there anything bigger about that?
No.
Now, I've been working at this kind of praying for 15 years. Literally. Pretty much my beggar prayers and my petition prayers are not in my vocabulary anymore. Like I said, I do not pray petition prayers. Hardly ever. Unless I don't know the mind of God. Then it's always appropriate to... That's the only prayer you can pray at that point. Petition prayer. God, what is your will? What do you want to do about this? Remember, I went and made a few declarations over him, and then I waited. Now, what do you want? And then here came that whoosh thing, you know? So, that's where we're headed, guys. Okay.
Did you have like a follow-up? Like, was he
Yeah.
ministered to?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Great story. Some of you guys know it because
Great ending.
some of you guys know it because you were on Zoom with him yesterday.
Oh.
But anyway, yes. So about 4 or 5 hours later, I called and she said, I'm taking him to ER. So evidently he gave in and knew that he wasn't going to die if he goes to the hospital. Because she read my text to him. And then way later, actually yesterday or the day before, she sent me a text and said, when we read your text, it gave both of us a lot of courage. So anyway, they went to the hospital, found out all it was a UTI and some dehydration. So they gave him some hydration and some antibiotics for UTI. He came home. At least he could do the business again, and so that was good. And so the next day he was still pretty on his bed, but at least he wasn't in the dire straits. The next day was, I think, our Zoom day. And he was on the Zoom with us. He didn't mention anything about that other than just give a little testimony. Come on, guys. You know, we're learning to live above the line. You know, remember when the centurion said to Jesus, my servant has a sickness and can you pray for him? And Jesus said, well, okay, maybe we'll go there. And the centurion said, no need to go there. Just speak the word. See, there's no time or distance in the spirit realm. We've got to learn to live up here, and there's no limitation up here. Come, go, in, out, up, down, wherever, as long as we're led by and in the Holy Spirit. Don't do it on our own. That's where we're getting danger problem. You know, be led by the Spirit.